Now then, this is a bit of a tale of woe really, but a while ago somebody was asking me to do a video about how to set the valve clearances on a Honda CRV petrol. So this covers that, but it's also an investigation into why is this engine knocking. So without any further ado, let's crack on with this. Right, this engine suddenly developed a noise and I'm a bit concerned. Let's have a listen. Right, well the engine has slowed down, it's warmed up and you can hear that knocking. Now, I wondered whether it was something on the serpentine belt over there. And I've used a screwdriver on against my ear. And I can't come across anything, and when you open the oil filler, it doesn't get any louder. But could it be one of the tappets that's come loose? The only thing to do is to have the rocker box off. It's definitely with the engine, is it? I'm just going to rev it up. I can't do it from here, so I'm going to rev it up and see if the noise disappears. So, no, the noise didn't disappear. Difficult. Very difficult. I want to see whether the rockers are right anyway. I did them about 2 years ago. See if the tappets are right, sorry. I did them about 2 years ago. So I think now is the time to have this lot off. It doesn't take that long. See if we can zoom in a bit. I've removed the plastic cap on there. Normally there's a plastic cover on here. I removed that so that the coils can stay cooler. So you just got to remove these bolts here, that breather, and this bracket here, and this lot lifts off as a complete thing. But the most important thing to go is to go round with an airline, especially down here, and or a brush or something, and get rid of all the rubbish that sits down in there. Yeah, normally one of these motors also has a cover over here, but these are the gas injectors. And yeah, plastic covers over engines. How ridiculous can one get? Right, let's crack on with that. So I've removed the top of the air filter, and that sequence is shown in one of my other videos about the cam sensors. Changing the cam sensors, which are just down there. Right, so that's out of the way. Now I can remove the coils and this bit here, and then undo all those and lift that off. Come on. There we go. Release the coils. There we go. A bit of oil on that, just a little bit. Okay, now we've removed that pipe from that bracket, and now I'll get on with these and remove these, which are washers and seals, and there's some at the back there, and one here. There we go. Okay. Right. Power steering. I think I have to remove that bolt there. I was hoping not to have to do that, but I think I'll have to do that. So this power steering hose is a bit of a pain, but I don't really want to disconnect it. There we go. And just to remind myself, that goes that way round. Right, hopefully this will come off somewhat easier now. It's only that hose that's the pain in the neck. There we go. And I forgot to pull the dipstick out. So pull the dipstick out first. Well, that definitely sounds a bit noisy. Right. Apparently, let's just zoom in a bit if we can. Can we see the cams? Yes, we can. So when the cam is facing that way out and the cam this side is facing out, then that's the time when you adjust the tappets, which are down there. You adjust these. One on the, is there one on the, no, there are two on the back here and two on the front here. The cam chain feels tight enough. Anyway, it's time to do this. So you have to turn the engine over first to get so the cams are facing outwards. I found something a bit disconcerting. Where are we? There we go. Right, focus. See that cam lobe there? See all that wear? That wasn't like that 10,000 miles ago, 15,000 miles ago. So that's a lot of wear, and we got a noisy tractor going by. So this is the first cylinder, and I've got a cam facing there and a cam facing there, so they're facing inwards. Yeah, not outwards, inwards. Okay, and then we can adjust those. That sounds a little bit noisy, but it's not that bad. Not to make that sort of knocking noise. I'll just check what they are. Okay, you can see the rollers here, and they're rolling free. Hopefully you can see that. So it means the cam is not pushing on those rollers. Now I've got this as a 0.9 thou, it was a 0.229. And they're not the easiest things to get sorted, but as you could see, that is almost perfect. A lot of the time when I need to adjust these, I will undo the lock nut, wind this out, put the feeler gauge in there and wind the screw down to feel the feeler gauge, then move it backwards and forwards so it's just the lightest of touches, and then lock it up. Otherwise it is really quite, especially the back ones, very fiddly. That's pretty good. Now the back ones, you have to put a block in front of the car and lean right over and fiddle, because they are, see if we can see, right at the back here, right back here, so difficult. But it's interesting that you can check whether you're at the right position on the cam by noting that the rollers spin freely. That's the cam follower rollers, and because these have got rollers, I do find it quite peculiar that we have that excessive cam wear. Right, we've got for the exhaust 0.3 of a mil, which is 12 thou. This is really awkward to film, but there's the feeler gauge, and it's just come out of the gap and you can't bloody see. Okay, that's loosened it off. That's too tight. That's about right. So, and I'm using a small screwdriver just so that I'm not in the way. So to hold it there, I would use a longer one normally. Hopefully you can see I'm doing this sort of partially blind. There we go. And that feels just about right. Yeah, I'll do the other one. Right, so all the exhaust valves, or the exhaust tappets, were a little bit on the tight side, but nothing excessive. So I'm just going to clean all these surfaces and put the rocker box back on. You don't need to see that. And just before we put this back on, there are 4 seals in there around the spark plug tubes, and there's a rubber seal around the outside, all of which can be replaced, and the far one is a bit damaged, which is why there was a little bit of oil around that coil pack. But I haven't got one of these sets, and if this engine is knocking still, and if it's not anything to do with the serpentine belt, if it's not the water pump or anything else driven by, or even the tensioner on the serpentine belt, then it sounds like we've got an engine problem, and I'm not going to spend any money on this. So we'll put it back together and see if the problem develops. And whilst we were here, we might as well check the plugs and gap them, and I use a bit of rubber pipe to put the plugs back in there so you don't get anything cross-threaded. Then pull that out, and somewhere, here it is, then I can tighten it up again. So I'll just go round those other two. And then make sure they're reasonably tight. Well, I don't think it's made a great deal of difference. I think we'll have to let this fault develop. Just a bit of an update. We've just done a compression test on these. Compression test cold, but however it gives you an idea. Got 120, 90, 80 and 40. There you go. That says it all, doesn't it? And of course we've checked the valves, so therefore there's no valves hanging up. So either there's a burnt valve, but I suspect with that knocking noise it's a piston slap or bust rings or something like that. I mean, it runs fine, apart from it clicks and clatters, and it starts fine. But I remember from my Morris Minor days that, you know, an engine can have not very much compression, especially those Series A engines, and they'll still run fine. They just won't have as much power. So, what do you do? Yeah. Anyway, that's a bit of an update. Catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.